At the celebration for my hard-earned promotion, my dad, clearly tipsy, raised his glass and slurred, "This should have been your sister's night, not yours." I smiled, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "Great, then you can ask her to pay your bills from now on." The room went silent. During my promotion celebration, my father declared, "This should have been your sister's evening. She possesses the true gift." I lifted my glass with a sharp grin and replied, "Excellent, then she can settle your bill tonight." I'd spent weeks saving to reserve the private area at Carter's Bistro, a chic establishment downtown featuring exposed brick and subdued lighting, ideal for commemorating my advancement to junior manager. It wasn't merely employment. It was evidence I'd succeeded, struggling through late hours at the marketing agency, proposing concepts that were rejected, then refining them until they were accepted. This night was exclusively mine. I invited colleagues, a few companions, my relatives, my mother, as quiet as ever, Lily, who messaged she'd attempt to appear, and my father, whom I knew would arrive late. The space hummed with conversation, plates of sliders and fries circulating, glasses clinking. I rose to offer a few remarks, my voice steady, expressing gratitude for their support. Then my father stumbled in, an hour behind schedule, liquor on his breath, tie loose. He motioned me away, seized a glass, and stood swaying. "A toast!" he roared, cutting through the murmur. I waited, heart pounding, hoping for once he'd articulate his pride. Instead, he sneered, eyes glazed, and stated, "This should have been your sister's evening. She possesses the true gift." The words struck like a blow, sharp and public. My colleague Jen froze, mid-sip. My mother gazed at her plate. The room fell silent, forks suspended, every gaze fixed on me. Lily wasn't even present. She hadn't worked a single day in years, yet somehow she claimed this moment too. I did not waver. I raised my glass, met his stare, and offered a tight, cold smile, the kind you direct at someone who has finally revealed their true intentions. "Excellent," I said, my voice even. "Then she can settle your bill tonight." Laughter caught in his throat. His mouth twitched, uncertain. I placed my napkin on the table, retrieved my coat from the chair, and exited. The door swung shut behind me, muffling the stillness I'd left. My chest burned, certainly from humiliation, but also from something else, something breaking free. I'd spent years seeking his approval, and in 10 seconds he destroyed it. Very well, I was finished pursuing. I did not return home after departing. The notion of my vacant apartment, the half-withered plant on the sill, the refrigerator's silent hum, it felt too confined to contain the turmoil within me. Instead, I drove to the pier, the sole location in town where the water stretched out, dark and limitless. I parked near the edge, cut the engine, and lowered the windows. The air carried the scent of salt and damp wood, and the waves slapped against the pilings steadily, as if they could erase the echo of my father's voice. "This should have been your sister's evening." It replayed in my mind, each repetition cutting deeper. Lily, the phantom who always triumphed, even when she was absent. I leaned back, gazing at the dashboard, and allowed the memories to surge forth. College marked the beginning. I was at the State University, balancing loans and a barista position at 5 a.m., steaming lattes while my peers slept. I'd return home on weekends, weary-eyed, to find Lily sprawled on the sofa, sketching unfinished concepts she'd never pursue. My father covered her rent that year, $600 a month for a dwelling she neglected, while I consumed instant noodles to extend my paycheck. She withdrew from her art program after 2 semesters, and he termed it Discovering Her Path. My path, a spreadsheet of debts and a 3.8 GPA I earned independently. Then there was the $500 last spring. My father called, his voice gruff, claiming Lily required it for a gallery exhibition, her significant opportunity. I transferred it, skipping my own car payment, trusting him. The exhibition never materialized. She spent it on paint and wine, and he never mentioned it again. I did not inquire, unwilling to provoke a conflict. But the bicycle was worse. 6 months ago, I arrived home to discover my old Schwinn gone, the one I'd spent a summer restoring, sanding rust from the frame, adjusting the gears. My father sold it for $200 to finance Lily's portfolio journey to Los Angeles. "You're too old for it," he said when I found out, as if it were insignificant, as if I were insignificant. She returned with blurry photographs and a tan, no portfolio. Sitting there, the pier lights flickering in the distance, I traced the pattern back further. Growing up, Lily received the easy breaks, forgotten chores, pardoned failed tests, dismissed with a shrug. I'd mow the lawn, receiving a thanks, if I was fortunate, while she doodled in her room, and my father would frame it like a masterpiece. When I secured my first internship, unpaid but demanding, he didn't call. Lily obtained a waitressing job, she quit in a week, and he boasted about her work ethic at Thanksgiving. I'd always convinced myself it wasn't favoritism, just timing. Perhaps they were financially strained when I needed assistance. But that dinner shattered the illusion. He didn't just overlook me, he erased me directly in front of everyone and granted my moment to her. The waves continued to roll, and I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. I'd constructed this existence, my degree, my employment, this promotion, brick by brick, no assistance, no safety net. I'd remained late at the firm, revising campaigns until my eyes burned, presenting to clients who barely glanced up. Lily? She never maintained a job longer than a month, never completed a canvas, never truly exerted herself. Yet my father perceived her shadow over every step I took. Why? What made her the focal point when I was the one still persevering? The air grew colder, seeping through my coat, but I remained motionless. I considered that room, Jen's wide eyes, my mother's downcast gaze, the clatter of a dropped fork. They'd all heard it, witnessed it. No one spoke up. Perhaps they never would. And I'd waited my entire life for my father to truly see me, to say, "Good job, kid." I'd envisioned it tonight, his hand on my shoulder, a smile breaking through that gruff exterior. Instead, he'd swung a wrecking ball through the one evening I dared to claim. My phone vibrated in my pocket, likely my mother attempting to smooth things over, or Jen checking in. I didn't check. The water stretched out, dark and silent, and something clicked. He'd never grant me that moment, not because I hadn't earned it, but because he couldn't perceive it, couldn't perceive me. Lily was his perspective, always had been, and I'd been squinting through the blur, hoping for clarity. The pier creaked under a gust, and I exhaled, long and slow. That was it, wasn't it? I'd been pursuing a phantom of my own, a father who did not exist. The genuine one stood up tonight, and revealed his true self, and for the first time, I believed him. 2 nights following the pier, I sat on my sagging sofa, the television flickering silently in the corner. The apartment carried the scent of stale coffee and dust, a place I'd kept close to home out of habit, not affection. On the coffee table, a photograph from the dinner stared back, me in a blazer, grinning, raising a glass with colleagues before my father's shocking statement. I'd printed it from Jen's text, a memento of what I'd achieved. Now it felt like an artifact from someone else's life. My phone rested beside it, screen dark, but I knew the notifications were accumulating. My mother's gentle apologies, perhaps my father's gruff, "Let's talk." I hadn't looked since I departed the bistro. The silence wasn't yet peace, merely a pause, heavy with what was to come. I picked up the phone, my thumb hovering over the lock screen. No more waiting, no more hoping they'd call to rectify it. I opened contacts and began with my father. His number, the one I'd dialed countless times for advice he never provided. Block. My mother next. Her quiet. He didn't mean it. Wouldn't alter the sum of years. Block. Lily, who would likely text some vague, "miss you," when she required funds. Block. The family group chat, a graveyard of overlooked plans unless they needed me to act as chauffeur or accountant. Block. Each tap felt like severing a connection, not with anger, but with exhaustion. I was done being the one who appeared, the one who paid, the one who remained unseen until they required something. The following morning, I accessed my work portal. The promotion included a remote option, something I'd previously dismissed, tethered to a city I didn't even enjoy. Now it was a lifeline. I emailed HR, confirmed the change, and searched listings for a new residence 3 hours north, a small city with more affordable rent and no ghosts. By noon, I'd signed a lease online for a studio, unseen, deposit drawn from savings I'd accumulated for emergencies. This was one. Then I addressed the apartment, the sofa, the wobbly table, the chipped mugs. I didn't need them. I took pictures, posted them on Marketplace. Moving sale, cheap, pick up only. Within hours, strangers carted it all away, cash in hand. The car loan was the final obligation, $1,200 remaining. I used the sale proceeds and a portion of my next paycheck to clear it. Debt-free, unrooted, I felt a spark of something new. Packing was swift. I didn't possess much worth retaining, just clothes, my laptop, a box of books I'd acquired from thrift stores. The diploma was the prize, Bachelor of Arts, Marketing, my name in crisp black letters. I slid it into a sleeve, not yet framed, but undeniably mine. The rest, old photographs, birthday cards from my mother with generic, love you, scribbles, I left in a drawer for the next occupant. I desired no reminders. The lease transfer was simpler than anticipated. A colleague, Tim, needed a place quickly after a breakup. He signed by evening, and I handed over the keys. No looking back. The landlord didn't object, as long as the rent continued. I loaded my car that night, a hatchback now fully mine, no bank's name on the title. The box of books went in the trunk, the diploma on the passenger seat like a co-pilot. The city lights blurred as I merged onto the highway, radio off, just the hum of tires and my own breathing. 3 hours north wasn't far, but it felt like a different world. No one there knew me as the child who repaired my mother's printer, drove Lily to her third fresh start job, or rescued my father when his tab ran dry. I wasn't fleeing from them, not precisely. I was running out of patience for a part I'd never sought. The new dwelling was bare upon my arrival, scuffed floors, a single bulb dangling in the kitchen, a mattress I'd ordered waiting in a box. I dropped my belongings, opened a window, and stood there, the night air sharp against my skin. It wasn't beautiful, but it was mine. No echoes of my father's voice, no shadow of Lily's unearned distinction. I spent years conforming myself to their expectations, dependable, quiet, the one who didn't complain. Now, with every number blocked, every connection severed, I felt lighter, as if I'd shed a garment I'd worn too long. The mattress remained boxed. I slept on the floor that night, diploma beside me, and for the first time in years, I didn't dream of proving anything to anyone. The exhaustion wasn't solely from the relocation. It was the burden of all those years pressing down until I couldn't discern my own boundaries. Cutting them out wasn't vengeance. It was self-preservation. I didn't detest them, didn't even wish them ill. I simply had nothing left to offer. The highway had stretched out before me, and I traversed it alone, not because they pushed me away, but because I'd finally ceased pulling them along. The new city had a different aroma, crisp, like pine and wet pavement, not the stale exhaust I'd left behind. My studio was a blank canvas, one room, a small kitchen, a window overlooking a street of brick storefronts. I acquired a desk from a thrift store, its edges chipped but sturdy, and positioned it by the light. Work kept me occupied. Remote now, I logged into meetings, presented campaigns, my voice steady through the screen. But after hours, I began small things for myself. I cooked nothing elaborate, just chicken with rosemary, the kind of meal I'd never prepared when every dinner was a rush to somewhere else. The sizzle in the pan felt like a rhythm I'd forgotten. I encountered Sam a weekend at the coffee shop downstairs. He was behind the counter, all easy smiles and disheveled hair, inquiring if I'd sampled the hazelnut blend. We conversed, board games of all things, and he invited me to his next game night. Elena arrived later, a colleague I'd only known through emails. She stopped by my virtual desk one day, commending a pitch I'd sent, and we ended up getting takeout after a late call. They didn't know the former me, the one who rectified everyone's problems, who receded into the background. They simply saw me, and that was novel. Months passed like that, quiet but fulfilling. I'd sketch occasionally, doodles of logos or random forms, the pencil scratching paper in a way that calmed my mind. The diploma remained unframed, propped on the desk, a reminder, not a prize. Then the letter arrived. It slid under my door one Tuesday, my father's blocky handwriting on the envelope. I nearly discarded it, but curiosity prevailed. Inside, a single page. Sorry about the dinner. Didn't mean it. Lily's in a predicament. Car broke down. $1,000 to fix it. She was intoxicated, messed up, but she's family. You owe us for all we've done. Send it soon. No affection, no plea, just that old, familiar demand. I read it once, let the words sink in, then shredded it into the waste bin. The audacity of it. After everything, he still viewed me as a source of funds, not a son. I stood by the window, watching rain streak the glass. All we've done. What was that? The bicycle he sold? The rent he paid for Lily while I struggled? The silence when I graduated? The smirk when I succeeded? I'd given them years, money, time, patience, and they'd given me nothing but a shadow to exist within. The shredder's hum faded, and I felt no guilt, no pull, just clarity. He'd never change, and I didn't need him to. I turned back to my desk, opened my laptop, and immersed myself in a project until the street lights illuminated. Sam noticed something amiss at game night that week. Over Scrabble, he nudged me. You good? I shrugged, stated it was just mail from home, and he didn't press. Elena joined us later, bringing takeout, and we laughed over overcooked dumplings and poor dice rolls. They didn't require my history, didn't ask for it, just shared theirs, and that was sufficient. I began freelancing, 2 minor design assignments on the side. A local bakery needed a logo. I sketched it in an hour, and they paid me $50. It wasn't much, but it was mine, earned on my own terms. The studio gradually filled, plants from a market, a rug Sam helped me carry home, a shelf for books I genuinely wished to read. I wasn't merely surviving anymore. I was constructing something, roots that didn't intertwine back to them. The letter lingered in my thoughts, but not as a wound. It was confirmation I'd been correct to depart. My father's words at the dinner, the $500 he never repaid, the bicycle he pawned, they weren't errors, they were him. And Lily, crashing her car, still elicited his plea, while I received his bill. I'd always been the backup, brought out when they faltered. One night, I cooked for Sam and Elena, pasta with garlic and herbs, a recipe I adjusted until it felt right. We ate at the desk, chairs mismatched, and they toasted to my chef era. I laughed, the sound genuine, not forced. The diploma caught the light, and I didn't need to explain it. They saw me, not the child who pleaded for crumbs, but the man who'd arrived here. The rain tapped the window, and I realized I wasn't concealing myself anymore. I was living, not to prove anything, but because I could. My father's letter was the final echo, and I'd allowed it to fade. This pasta steam, friends' voices, a sketch half finished on the desk, this was louder now. 6 months into my new existence, the air had turned sharp with autumn, leaves skittering across the street outside my studio. I'd settled into a routine, work by day, freelancing by night, gatherings with Sam and Elena when the week permitted. The desk was cluttered now, sketches and coffee mugs crowding the diploma I'd finally mounted on the wall. I was mid-email, pitching a campaign, when 3 forceful knocks rattled the door. Not Sam's casual tap, not a delivery person's haste. I froze, gut twisting, and opened it. My father stood there, unshaven, eyes bloodshot, a scent of stale beer reaching me before he spoke. "Lily's in rehab," he said, his voice rough. "You're selfish for abandoning us." I gripped the door frame, blocking his step forward. He appeared smaller than I recalled, not the towering figure who dominated my life, but a man unraveling at the edges. "She's been there a month," he continued, leaning in. "And you're off playing big shot, leaving us to handle it." His breath was foul, his shirt wrinkled, but the accusation was the same old weapon, me, the antagonist for daring to step away. I did not flinch. "You chose her every time." I said, low and steady. I'm done being your last resort. His jaw tightened, eyes narrowing as if he'd argue, but I closed the door firmly, not loudly, and turned the lock. The click resonated in the quiet. He pounded once, twice, then ceased. I stood there, my back to the wall, waiting for guilt to consume me. It didn't. Through the window, I observed him shuffle to his truck, shoulders hunched, and drive off, tail lights fading into the twilight. The room felt still, mine again. I sank onto the rug, gazing at the diploma's faint reflection in the glass. Rehab. Lily's problem, not mine. But he dragged it here, expecting me to resolve it, as always. I'd transferred money, driven her to interviews she'd neglected, remained silent when he praised her failures. No more. A week later, my phone illuminated at 3:17 a.m., an unknown number. I knew before I pressed play. My father's voice crackled through, slow and thick, as if he'd been drinking too long. You think you're too good for us, cutting us out like we're refuse? You'll crawl back when you fail, kid. Always do. It cut off, no farewell, just that bitter edge. I sat on the edge of my mattress, my thumb hovering over. Delete. The words didn't sting, they landed flat, hollow, like a stranger yelling from a passing vehicle. I'd heard them before, in every Lily's trying. Excuse every? Don't be so hard on her. Lecture. I pressed delete mid-rant, the voicemail vanishing into the ether. The screen went dark, and I exhaled. Outside, the city hummed, cars, a distant siren, life moving on. I rose, brewed coffee, and opened my laptop. A freelance deadline loomed, a poster for a local festival. I sketched until dawn, the lines sharp and assured, the work drawing me back to myself. My father's visit, his call, they weren't a reckoning for me, but for him. He'd appeared empty-handed, demanding I fill the void, and I'd refused, not out of malice, but because I no longer recognized him or my life. The coffee grew cold, but I continued, the design taking shape, bold, mine. Elena texted later that day, asking if I was available for takeout. I agreed, and we met at a noodle establishment, Sam joining with a deck of cards. They didn't inquire about the night, didn't need to. We ate, played, laughed at Sam's terrible bluff. The studio awaited me afterward, plants thriving, sketches affixed to the walls, a space I'd carved out. My father's voice lingered in the back of my mind, but it was faint now, like a radio station losing signal. I wasn't that child anymore, scrambling for his approval, shrinking to fit their mold. I'd walked away, and he'd come running, not to reconcile, but to pull me back. I did not yield. The diploma caught the light as I secured the door for the night, a quiet anchor. I wasn't proving anything to him anymore. I was living for myself. His truck, his rant, they were the final breath of a narrative I'd outgrown. I switched off the lamp, the room settling into darkness, and slept more profoundly than I had in years. He'd lost his influence, not because I'd fought, but because I'd stopped allowing him to matter. A year after the dinner, I'm returning from the farmer's market, my arms full, a bundle of basil, a crusty loaf, sunlight warming the bag. It's a crisp Sunday, the kind where the air feels gentle, and I'm planning dinner with Sam and Elena. My studio is vibrant now, plants spill over the sill, sketches adorn the walls, my promotion plaque gleams above the desk, a quiet acknowledgement of what I've constructed.